shall we? This is why I believe, and I've said over and over again, that this audience will change the course of America because you have done the hard work. You're not done yet, but you're educating yourself. You're continuing to do it every day. You're reading stuff you never ever thought you would read. You're asking tough questions, not only of your government, but more importantly of yourself. You're saying the tough things when they make you uncomfortable. Nobody does that. Nobody stands in the line of fire to be called a stupid idiot because they want to. Hey, let's be very unpopular. They do it because they believe it. And once you're called a stupid idiot or a danger to your society, you have to have introspection. You grow. And you either change your point of view because you were wrong, or you harden in that point of view. Sometimes you will go back and say, you know what, that wasn't quite right. I've done that myself. It's not quite right. That's not exactly what I meant. That is, quite honestly, that's why there's tenure in universities. Tenure in universities is not so somebody can just say here's the truth. You wouldn't need to be protected if it was true. You need to have tenure in universities, or so the argument goes, so you can explore ideas. You need to be able to say things that are risky. Why? Why? Because that will lead you to enlightenment. Enlightenment. E1. What is enlightenment? This is exciting. Enlightenment is reason coupled with God. You use your God-given follow the Spirit and have that enlightenment, but don't listen just to the priest. Listen to you. Listen to what God is telling you, the individual, and couple it with reason. That's enlightenment. And that's a challenge. That's a fight internally every day. This is the exciting thing, because when you hear someone like Steve Cohen, you don't have to shout them down. You look at him and say, this is great. This is great. We can have real dialogue now. Let's say to Mr. Cohen, okay, I understand what you're saying. People can be herded. They can be herded because they're cows. Are you a rancher? Do you believe that you are part of the enlightened elite, that you know what's best? And those cows, those Tea Party members, don't. Even though the American people say, no, we don't want this. Are they cattle? Is that what they are? Are they just cattle? Are they cows? Do you know what's best and not them? And I don't say that with any venom whatsoever. Just tell me. Because the American people have flatly rejected health care. So are they not capable of seeing through the lies? Or is it that they're not capable of reading the bill? Because the bill is out there. What is it? What is it they're not capable of that you are? And why not make that case instead of just saying the Goebbels thing, which you have half right? What is it that you have in Washington that they don't? And let him respond. He believes that people need to be guided, because that's the progressive way. They need to be guided by those at the top, the elite few. But here's the truth. That's the rancher and the cattle theory. It's the way the progressives on both sides of the aisle have been doing it for 100 years. Right or left, it doesn't matter. It's about control. Fascism, Nazism, socialism, communism, it doesn't matter. It's about control. This is not a Republican or Democratic issue. It is the very difference between freedom and enlightened despotism. That's it. That's it. I put yesterday on the board this question mark. Is this America, where the cows are being herded in a pen? Is that it? Or is there something more? Is this you? Is this America, with all of the agencies and Cass Sunstein and the elite running the farm? Or are there town folk? There's not just ranchers and cattle. There are people. And people are not cattle. But if you're a rancher and you keep the people or the cows in pens, why are you doing that? Well, we're keeping the pens there. We're just keeping them in a herd like that because for their own safety. Really? Safety? That's not why people keep cattle in pens, just for safety. No. You're keeping them safe there because they'll hurt themselves and they're valuable. Where's their value? To a rancher in this analogy, depends on what the rancher uses the cattle for. Getting elected? Is the rancher using cattle? First of all, people are not cattle. They're not to be herded. It's who are you to herd anyone? They're not to be put into fences or behind fences. But that's what the EPA is. A fence builder. That's what the DEA is. A fence builder. HHS, FCC, a fence builder. Keep you here. Fence builders. You know, we didn't have any of them until Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt, a progressive. We had the FDA. We never had fence builders in America. We had instead people like Marshall Dillon. Marshall Dillon, that was the government. Marshall Dillon was the government. He didn't come out, and when people were hurting each other, he would step in and say, wait, you're breaking the law, or you're breaking the law, and he'd take you to court, put you in jail. The court would decide. The sheriff was there not to talk to you about broccoli. He never went up to Festus and said, hey, Festus, you're looking bad. I got to tell you, I'm going to write you a ticket here and put you in jail unless you start eating right. No. He didn't talk about protecting the American people or hurting the people of the town. No. Unless people were out of control and hurting each other, then the marshal would come in. But who did the marshal work for? The people. The marshal was not in charge. The people were. So the marshal didn't round anybody up he was not protecting a herd. He never manipulated them. Elites are the ranchers, and they'll build fences around. But when they have to move the herd, they also do something else. They send dogs out to bark all around the cows. They send dogs, keep them in a pack. When they're going on, have to move from place to place or have to cross a river, you have the dogs. And if you have a sick cow, you leave them behind or you shoot them. If you have a renegade cow that's just disturbing the rest of the herd and pulling some of the herd off course, especially if one of the ranchers is convinced we've got to move this herd, the herd doesn't know where they're moving. But if they're convinced they have to move this herd, then we have to get them across the river. And if this one cow is disturbing the rest of the herd and pulling them off course, well, we're not going to make it, and you got to get rid of that cow. Now, the people in a free society wouldn't allow you just to take that cow out and shoot him. But that's what Mussolini did. That's what Hitler did. That's what Stalin did. That's what Mao did. They used propaganda, and that's why nudge goes to shove, and shove eventually becomes shoot. They could just shoot you. They were using the same tactics. Shoot them. But you can't do that in America. So what does nudge and then shove become? You have to discredit them. You have to get the rest of the herd to separate themselves from that crazy cow. They have to believe, the herd does, that they made the choice to separate. No, I don't want to be with him. He's dangerous, or he's crazy, or whatever. You have to convince the herd, move away from that cow, because you can't shoot here. So then what? Well, you use the tactics that Cohen said were Nazi tactics, but they're not Nazi tactics. PR, public relations. They were progressive tactics before the Nazis used them. This book was on Goebbels' desk. Starting the Modern Propaganda, Edward Bernays. It was taken from him, used by the Nazis. He knew it was propaganda. It was such a bad name that he had to do what all progressives do. They just changed the name of something that everybody went, ooh, that's bad. Just change the name. Don't change the tactics, just change the name. But that's what the tactics are, Nazi tactics. Nazi tactics are progressive tactics first. And so they use those tactics. That's the barking dogs around the herd. That's what get the herd to separate themselves from that cow. And you don't have to have dialogue. We have to have dialogue to be able to understand that. We have to be able to challenge this. We have to be able to have an argument about it. We have to be able to explain it to our children so they see. When your child goes into Columbia University and the professor shouts them down because they don't believe that's a fact, they don't believe that's right. How does that work? What is that? They're shouting them down. And where do we go with Mr. Cohen. Next.